Thanks everyone for joining us today, and welcome to BRIC's Pre-Apprenticeship Speaker Series, where we aim to give you an inside look at the various careers across entertainment, media, and tech with help from the industry pros themselves. I'm Sarah, I'm BRIC's Director of Communications and your moderator for this series. And if you tune into our previous session with Evan Sang, we talked a bit about how major events and festivals are increasingly adopting more sustainable practices for the health and safety of event goers and our environment. But today, we're continuing that conversation, focusing on the overlap that exists between sustainability careers and creative roles in entertainment, such as film, live events, and media. And to tell you more about this, we're joined by our very good friends here from the U.S. Green Building Council of California, Melanie Peck, who is the Director of Workforce Development, and Liz Christy, who is their Education Programs Manager. Before we start, I do want to remind everyone that we always have a live Q&A during the last 15 minutes of this session. So make sure to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen to submit any questions you might have for Melanie and Liz along the way, and we'll make sure to get them answered. So with that, I'll turn the presentation over to Melanie and Liz.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sarah. We're excited to be here, and we're very excited about our partnership with the BRIC Foundation. I do want to make sure I just reshared. Can you see my screen?
Yes, looks great.
The right screen. The most important piece here. Wonderful. Well, as Sarah introduced us, thank you for that wonderful introduction. We are here to talk about the intersection of sustainability and entertainment, and there is a lot. There is a lot to talk about. There's a lot of job opportunity, a lot of skill growth opportunity, and both Liz and I feel very passionate about this subject matter and couldn't be happier to answer questions, offer resources, and go through the next 45 minutes to an hour with you. So I'm just going to move on into telling you a little bit about what you can expect from us today. And first, I think it'll be important to tell you who we are and what we're doing here, who and what USGBC, that's the United States Green Building Council of California, does, how Liz and I both arrived at our careers in sustainability. It was not a straight line, I think, for either of us. And we want to get into a little bit about career journeys and the multiple pathways and how sustainability can weave in to almost any job, if not all jobs in some way. And we'll talk a little bit about trends and impacts of sustainability in arts, media, and entertainment, and then talk about some ways to get involved through training, internships, community action, volunteerism, etc. And with that, I will move into meet us. This is us. Liz, say hello.
Hi, everybody. Happy Tuesday.
And we'll get into more of who we are when we get to our sustainability journey slides. But the United States Green Building Council of California, we are an independent nonprofit in California for California, and our vision for the future is transforming California into a more sustainable, resilient, and equitable place for all. And as we go through our presentation, we'll talk a little bit about what that actually means. Sometimes vision and mission statements can sound a little lofty or word salad, and we really like to break it down and make sure that folks understand what we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish, and why we're here. So our mission is really about transforming California through the built environment. Those are the buildings, that's the infrastructure, it's everything that's around us. We want to focus on making that more sustainable, resilient, and equitable. And we do that in a number of ways. We have multiple leadership opportunities through our community. We focus on environmental justice and public health and community-based outreach. We do education, K through post-secondary. We do professional development, training, mentorship, and we connect folks from all over California. We have numerous regional leadership advisory boards, different committees, et cetera, that really help us infuse services through our organization across the state, and really making sure that we keep a local perspective, even at the statewide level. We also do quite a bit of advocacy. We're not necessarily on our workforce development and training team, but we have an advocacy and policy team that is constantly knocking on doors of local officials, of officials up in Sacramento, and really making sure that we're arguing for impactful and meaningful policy across the board when it comes to sustainability and clean energy. And so this is just a little bit of a deeper look into what we do. And really what I want to focus on this slide is where a lot of the emissions, so what's affecting our climate, what is impacting our planet, what is happening, much of that is happening in the built environment. It's through building operations. And so at USGBC California, we think that building in sustainability, understanding climate, understanding how we are building buildings, using buildings as occupants, as builders, as trades workers, et cetera, that is really a huge chunk of what is contributing to overall emissions and has a big impact on our social and environmental health. And that's really where we focus on that. So I won't go too into the numbers, but this talks a lot about the folks that we are training and folks coming to our events and how many landscape and construction professionals we're training, how many residents we're outreaching to, et cetera. We have quite a large reach and quite a large community. So another quick look at some of our sort of accomplishments by the numbers. And then I want to talk a little bit about my sustainability journey. So I'm going to flood you with pictures of my kid because that's who I am, and just talk a little bit about how I arrived in sustainability. So when I was a kid, I grew up across the street from an elementary school on one side and a freeway on the other. And developed some pretty horrible asthma, as did my sister and many of the folks on our street. So spent a lot of time in hospitals as a kid, lots and lots of time in the emergency room, lots of medication, lots of limitations. And the older I got, the more I understood that your health was deeply tied to where you live and what you could afford. And we could not afford to live in a place that was not directly on a freeway. And every day I would see kids out there playing, and I was at school playing on the fields, et cetera. And we were just really intaking a lot of particulate matter. And that had pretty serious health outcomes for me and many members of my community. And so as I got older and understood that connection, I started to get activated. Also, in my house, we were not allowed to watch much TV, but I was allowed to watch Captain Planet. And so I got obsessed with Captain Planet and decided that I was going to be a Planeteer. And I went on a tear about pollution and about picking up litter in particular. And then when I decided to move back to California, I was living in Seattle for a while. I wanted to make sure that we enjoyed as much outdoor activity as humanly possible. My son also has asthma, despite my best efforts of keeping him away from living on a freeway. Apparently part of that is built into the genetics. But I want to be outside. I want to leave a better place for him. I want cleaner air. And I really got activated by my own health journey and understanding what the impacts were of particulate matter and pollution in particular. So my career journey took me a lot of different places, definitely not a straight line. I went to Cal State Fullerton, and then after graduation, first I went to community college, and then I went to Cal State Fullerton, and I changed my major, 7 or 8 times, and started with art and ended with political science and philosophy. And then went into AmeriCorps, and I was an AmeriCorps Vista, which is the sister program to Peace Corps. And I went to Louisiana after Hurricane Katrina, where I got very deeply involved with urban planning and rebuilding after the storm, and also climate adaptation, climate resilience, and the workforce that surrounds that. I started working with Keep Louisiana Beautiful, which is an environmental organization. They are an affiliate of Keep America Beautiful, and they focus a lot on non-point source pollution, which, I had my own experiences with. They've also focused a lot on beautification and litter and community cleanups and that sort of activity. I stayed in Louisiana and did disaster relief and urban planning and working for the nonprofit for a couple of years before I came back home to Southern California The bugs in Louisiana were too big for me, although New Orleans was wonderful. The food and the music is wonderful, but I was ready to come home. Came back to Southern California and got a job with the Energy Coalition, where I spent the next 11 years. I was their director of workforce education and training, did a lot of work in the classroom, building, which I never, did not know I was going to be doing. I was building science lessons around magnets and how motors work, and acting out how the power plants operate with TKers and third graders. And it was a wonderful experience. And I worked my way up there to a director role. And while I was doing that, I was also teaching in between at Anaheim Elementary School District, and I was teaching art. I sort of went back to my creative roots and wanted to teach art. And that sort of has weaved into all of my curriculum development and design over the past 20 years. Or so of my career. I've really wanted to make sure that art is deeply entwined with any kind of STEM or STEAM education as well. And then I moved up to Seattle because I thought, what the heck? And spent 3 years as the director of people and culture at Seattle City Light, where I was managing apprenticeship, workforce development, talent acquisition, and race and social justice initiatives. And spent the last 3 years there. Again, decided it was time to come back to California, and landed with an organization that I had volunteered with about 15 years ago and was now statewide. So I joined USGBC California as the director of workforce development, and couldn't be happier about it. So I went from sort of art to political science to urban planning to art again and education. But underneath sort of the undercurrent of my career journey is really about public service, education, workforce development, access to good, high-paying jobs that matter and transform people's lives, and the clean energy transition. So that is my circular career journey. Liz, I'll hand it over to you for yours.
Thank you. Wow, what a path. And I hope this comes across when I also share my journey here, but part of the thing we want to emphasize today is that career journeys are not linear. You might start out with one thing in mind and you might go in a circle, you might go 6, 7 other different directions. And that's okay. I think that's what the workforce is looking like these days. It's not a single linear path that maybe was the path of our parents' generation. So, my background, well, let me kick off with my role at USGBC. I'm the education program manager. So what that means is I help build curriculum and translate material into different languages. So it's a lot about how do I take important environmental technological information and make it legible and able to disseminate to different industries that need that information. For example, the film industry. So it's a lot about sharing data and how do you make that information available in different languages and to different types of people, because oftentimes the way architects and engineers say information is not an easy way for the rest of us to absorb that information. So sometimes I consider myself like a scientist translator. Like I'm taking the science information and translating it into a way that everyone can understand, even if you don't have a science background. So starting there. So my background is a science background. I started studying environmental science and doing landscape restoration in Pennsylvania. And I apologize, I'm getting over a little bit of a cold here, so just bear with me if I'm coughing a little bit while we go through here. Um, so in Pennsylvania, what that looked like was, if anyone's heard of a Superfund site, that is a piece of environmental land that's been highly polluted. So maybe there was a chemical dump or an oil spill or something. And oftentimes, in order to clean up those spaces, you have to first go in and remediate the existing damage and then plant the native species to build back the ecosystem. So it's not just going in and cleaning up, it's also going back and restoring the original ecosystem. So that is what landscape restoration looks like. And I really enjoyed that. It was very physical. I was out in the forest removing invasive vines and then propagating native species and transplanting them into the woods. So I was working with the forest department. It was a pretty cool job, but it was definitely physical. I was out there in the mud, in the rain, getting beat up every day, but I enjoyed it. Then once I got to Pennsylvania, I'm sorry, I moved from Pennsylvania to California in 2014. And once I arrived, I did a whole myriad of jobs in Pennsylvania before I came out here, including restaurant work, bartending. I worked for a botanical garden making $5 an hour trimming hedges. I did side gigs in people's backyards, helping them mow their lawns. So that was uh, that job I mentioned in landscape restoration. I didn't get paid to do that. I was doing that for free because I was so passionate about it. So I was doing that for free during the day and bartending at night because the funding wasn't available in Pennsylvania to fund the career path that I wanted. So I knew it was there. I kept working towards it for free because I knew eventually one day somebody would pay me to do it. So came to California, same mission. I didn't know anyone. I had to network. So I started volunteering. Volunteered for the LA County Arboretum, volunteered for the California Native Plant Society, got my docent naturalist training at Eaton Canyon Nature Center in Altadena. All while I was doing that, I was also waitressing and bartending. So I was doing all this networking and working in my field, the field that I was trying to get into during the day for free, and then bartending and waiting tables at night. So I did that for a couple years until I made the right connections through the LA County Arboretum to the right people who had the funding to hire me to do the job I wanted to do. Then I was finally able to quit my restaurant job in 2018, went back to school, got my master's degree in nonprofit business management because I realized if I really wanted to run my own business, I had to take some business classes. Went back to school, got another degree, and then finally started my own business called Eco Urban Gardens, where I was doing landscape design and restoration in the San Gabriel Valley. So if you're familiar with the SGV, I was in mostly El Monte and Whittier and Pasadena. So that was a lot of fun, but also very challenging. Very challenging to be your own boss. And unfortunately, I had to let go of all of my staff during the pandemic. So in 2022, we started closing down. The organization is still running. They're still working through El Monte Union High School District. So the after school program still exists. That was tied to that business, but we did have to mostly close down. And then that's when I transitioned over to the U.S. Green Building Council. And the way that I was able to make that transition was through volunteer work and funding application. So as a working for Eco Urban Gardens, I applied to a grant with USGBC, and that's how I got that connection. So big circle, here we are now, building urban climate resilience in the built environment through U.S. Green Building Council. Next slide, please.
And that was it.
Yes, so now, did you want me to dive in, or you're going to talk more about a green job? Yes.
Oh, I can talk more about a green job and then kick it over. Thank you. Yes, our paths were not straight. Lots of different, it sounds like for both of us, a lot of curiosity and learning along the way, however, trying new things. But so glad that we both ended up at USGBC California. So I'll talk a little bit about what is a green job because it can be a little bit confusing, but or it can sort of just make you think of a solar installer. That's when I work with kids and talk to anyone in our elementary schools when we're doing outreach, you ask them, what is a green job? It's solar installer. And I find that sometimes that image even sticks even into adulthood and later on. But green jobs can be a lot of different jobs. It's a pretty broad sort of picture. And essentially green jobs are jobs that are aimed at protecting, preserving, or restoring the environment by minimizing the impact that humans have on it. And so that can mean all sorts of different things. And we'll focus quite a bit on the intersection of sustainability and entertainment, and how you can green the job that you're in or on the path towards. But first, just talking a little bit about sort of the broader spectrum of green jobs. Some of the jobs that we focus on are really tied to growth potential. And what we're seeing is that in this economy, despite federal disruptions and divestment in infrastructure and anything climate related, anything science related, and a whole host of other disruptions and things that the federal government is unleashing upon our country, we still see growth in green jobs. We are still seeing growth in energy, clean energy, sustainability, and energy efficiency jobs. We're seeing upticks in the employability of folks that are coming to the table with green skills and sustainable skills. And we'll talk a little bit about more about what that means later on in the presentation. But we are seeing employment increase in green jobs. We're seeing that mainly in clean energy, utilities and construction, and manufacturing, and all of the ancillary or connected jobs that go along with that. So we're not just talking about the line worker who's putting in the electrical wire, or cable splicers, or trades folks that are doing the boots on the ground labor. We're also talking about folks that are coordinating that labor, that are marketing it, that are talking about it and storytelling around it and doing the advertisement for it and procuring the jobs. And so there's a whole ecosystem of green jobs out there that we want to make sure that you are aware of as you begin your career journeys or continue along. So climate change and adaptation is one bucket of job titles. There's your sort of classic environmental scientists, engineers, landscapers, civil engineers, etc. Also, a big area of green jobs is carbon capture. And a lot of this can focus on geology and soil technology, conservation, forest technicians. So there's a lot of classic environmental science that also goes into the number of green jobs that are available. Tons, including both Liz and I, of nonprofits are doubling down on green jobs, on sustainability jobs, jobs in energy, and making sure that there is a voice for communities particularly across California. These jobs focus on policy and advocacy. There's fundraising and marketing. There's program managers, educators, lots and lots of community outreach, and then also conservationists. And these are just sort of the top jobs when we're doing our research that are coming into each category. And there's a ton of jobs in the public sector that integrate green ideals or sustainability. When I was at the city of Seattle, I was training apprentices in above and underground wiring. I was also hiring fish biologists to manage dams and make sure that we were repopulating fish specimens. So things that I did not think that I was going to be doing, but there's a plethora of jobs available in the public sector that focus on environmental improvement and green jobs generally. Consulting and research is also where we find, particularly in California, quite a few jobs. And this is also where we see a lot of intersection of sustainability across industries. So every company, every industry does a lot of, reporting and data control and understanding what their emissions are. What are they spending on energy? What are they spending on consumable products? What are they spending on waste reduction or waste management? And the folks that do that work, sustainability managers, analysts, data scientists, folks that are putting together reporting, those are all highly sought after skills that are considered green jobs that apply across industry, across multiple sectors. And to get a little bit more into focus, particularly with arts, media, and entertainment, where we see top jobs that seem to be the most connected with sustainability and green jobs generally are how are people purchasing equipment? How are they purchasing, managing equipment? What type of equipment are they buying? How are they designing a set? How is that set being built? How is that set being disposed of or reused post-production? What locations are folks picking? And how are folks telling the story? How is the story of climate change or sustainability or green practices being represented in film or media, et cetera? There's also pathways for sustainability coordination. Craft services, what type of purchase, what type of food is being purchased, how is that food being disposed of? So there are a ton of sustainability choices and pathways really baked in to a lot of the operations that happen with AME that can easily translate into energy efficiency, and sustainability industries at large. So I'm going to hand it back over to Liz to get into a little bit more of what's what, what there is there, and what is sustainability. So Liz, over to you. Unless I lost you.
Nope, sorry, I was on mute.
Okay.
You can
I
go.
thought I was like, did my internet freeze and I've just been talking to myself? No, we're good.
Thank you. Next slide, please. And we're just going to touch on this because I think, hopefully most of you are aware of the term sustainability and what it means, but let's just touch on it briefly. We even now, you saw on my slide the term regenerative. So to sustain is to sustain an existing ecosystem through to eternity. But oftentimes now what we need to do is actually regenerate. So we're doing both. We're sustaining our existing systems and we're trying to regenerate new systems to improve what we broke. Next slide. So how does this apply, right? So now Melanie and I have shared our career journeys. We shared with you some information about the industry and the built environment. So how are we going to now connect it to your career path and how can you now plug it into your personal career journey? Let's pop to the next slide. So sustainability in entertainment is such a new thing, right? This is, even though there have been like companies like Green Sparks Groups who are sustainable consulting companies for production who've been around a long time, this is not a widely talked about topic. I can't tell you how many times I've seen Beyonce in concert and also cried because I know her carbon footprint is just like crazy high. It's like you you really want to participate in these cultural things, but it also hurts your heart because you're like, oh God, Taylor Swift, please stop taking your airplane places. So we're trying to recognize the industry as it exists. How can we improve both the 1, 2, 3 scope emissions, which are all of the carbon emissions that come from running the operations of your business, and what solutions can we provide to companies? Because we know that the laws in California are pushing for net zero by 2045. That means zero carbon emissions from the state of California in 2045. That is the goal. So in order to get there, we essentially have to create an entire new green economy, and entertainment is one of our biggest economies here in California. So how do we make entertainment green? Next slide, please. So let's talk about your skills. Where are they going to overlap, right? And oftentimes I think sustainability is talked about with these terms, but you'll find that most of you probably use a lot of sustainability things in your day-to-day life. You're just not calling it that, right? Like think about who turns out the lights every time you leave a room, recycles or tries to recycle at home, reuses containers, reuses plastic bags. All of those things that you do in your day-to-day life are sustainability. So now think of that on a bigger scale. How does that look when it turns into your day-to-day operations of your whole building? Anything you want to add there, Melanie?
No, and I think just kind of, I think I talked a little bit about it in the beginning, but we are seeing that there's a shift, that there is a demand, whether it's because it's the right thing to do or because there's a new regulation or ordinance, but things are moving towards a more green, sustainable path. And it is in our best interests as job seekers, as learners, to make sure that we understand what those in-demand skills are, so that we can really attain the high-paying, high-quality jobs. And the data that we're seeing is really suggesting that you are more employable if you have sustainability skills on your resume. So that's all. You can take back over, Liz.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. And so, in the same way that you heard in both of our career paths, how they were not linear, how much we had to pivot and learn new things. I went to school and then I had to go back to school. I thought I was learning one thing and then I had to learn something totally new. That's still happening to me. I think I have to learn a new tech platform like every other month. And then how do those tech stacks integrate with each other? You're always going to be learning. That's just that's just the bottom line. But that's what gives you the edge, right? So when you're able to pivot and constantly learn new technology, then you're always going to be employable because you'll be ahead of the curve.
And I
But
think too, the new way that we're seeing folks move through their career is where opportunities are better, where there is a higher quality job, better benefits, better pay and benefits, safer, et cetera, and so on. We are seeing people move through the economy differently than in, let's say, our parents' generation or grandparents' generation. And sustainability skills are paying off. People are more hireable. There is a 4-time job growth happening within the sustainability job market. You are increasing your transferability between industries. If you can do sustainability in entertainment, you can also do it for local government or for nonprofit or for a for-profit company. We're also seeing higher pay and career mobility overall with sustainability, and that is a global statistic as well. And we're seeing a gap. So the need for all of these skills is outpacing the current supply of skills. So it is in, again, this group's best interest to make sure that you have sustainability skills in your personal toolkit and on your resume, because it will make you more employable. I keep going on that one. Sorry. Go
yeah,
ahead, Liz.
and that's for every industry. So
Yep.
let's say you go out of the entertainment industry and you want to go into something else, the same rule is still going to apply. Just thinking about the hundreds of thousands of workers that are going to need to be employed in Altadena alone to rebuild that community. So just now think of that just for Altadena and replicating that on a statewide, now even a global scale. The need is huge. So let's think about all the different parts of industry and how they impact. So this kind of ties a little bit into that scope emissions that I mentioned. So in California, we have something called ESG, which is Environmental Sustainable Governance. And that means we have a lot of rules in California about what you can and can't do. We have rules about how much energy you can use and where it comes from, and water and how much and in what way. Um, so they also have rules about how do people interact with your company? How is things being moved and shipped? All of that ties into your carbon footprint. And these are all things that businesses have to track, especially if you're going to be doing business here in California. It's a lot. We can go to the next one, I think. So let's think about how much of your set, if you've ever worked on a film set, one of my closest friends works for Lucasfilms, which is so cool because she gives me all the inside details about the filming and set design, which is really fun. And then she calls me when she wants pictures of like alien plants. So, how much at the end of her sets of all those, I always think about at the end of when they were filming the one Jedi one, how many of those succulents got thrown away at the end of the filming, or how much of that food, or where did that fabric end up? So there are some companies out there that that recycle post-production materials, but let's hear some guesses. Pop it into the chat. What percentage of post-production materials do you think ends up in the landfill versus how much of it ends up getting recycled and reused again for another season? I think 70 is a pretty good guess. Do we actually know the answer to this, Melanie, or was this a something that's in the spec? training?
It is. Do you want me to tell you the answer? Are we
Yes, please.
fielding it? It is 70%. Yes,
Oh,
and unfortunately, I know.
all right. Well, I think
70.
that's honestly better than I thought. I thought I was gonna guess 45. So 70 gives me hope. That's
Well,
good.
70% ends up in the landfill.
Oh,
Yeah.
the opposite.
Sorry. It's worse than you thought. So
It's
sorry.
worse than I thought.
Worse than
Thank
you
you.
thought.
I'm
So
very
sorry.
tired. The double negative got me there. Okay.
Here you
Yes,
go.
so 70% ends up in the landfill. Thank you. Yep. So now that's a whole industry opportunity, right? Just let's say you wanted to start a consulting firm about how to recycle fabric or succulents in post-production. That's a whole business plan right there.
Mhm.
I love these examples that you posted here on the side. These are great. Um, so this is storytelling, this is entertainment. You in this industry probably has the biggest influence on culture and how we receive information. Um, I think about like when Inconvenient Truth came out in the early 2000s. There was another one about fracking. Those are the things that motivated me. I remember as a young person, a teenager, watching these documentaries and facing climate anxiety for the first time. That's what launched me on this career path. Luckily, I didn't live under a freeway. So, all right. Anything you wanted to add on this? Nope. Okay. So this is definitely getting national attention. I don't know if anybody saw over the last couple weeks the social media videos of the COP 35 in Brazil. That there was a huge media presence this year at COP, which is I can't remember what COP stands for, climate something something.
It's
Uh,
blinking.
I'm just too tired. But the the media presence was so big because they had a big push for indigenous rights in the Amazon. And what was very interesting to see was for the first time, some of these indigenous leaders using social media as a tool to tell their side of the story because traditionally news media does not cover their side. So for the first time during a COP summit, me here from my phone could actually hear the voice and opinion of an Indigenous representative who went to that summit when I've never had access to that information before. So I want you to really think about the impact of storytelling, how it can move the needle, and what your role is in that. We need you guys. We need you guys. We need your help. The scientists cannot tell the story. They're doing a bad job.
Not in their wheelhouse.
It's
So
not in
we
their
need
wheelhouse.
the creatives. We need the creatives to tell the story, please.
Exactly, yes. Next slide. Um, oh yeah, and this is we're seeing an interest. I want you to hear from the sustainability side that companies like Amazon, companies like Disney, um, Green Sports Alliance, they're paying attention. They know that the economy is moving in this direction and they're starting to implement changes. Like Disney's starting to implement zero waste on their resorts.
Mhm.
Amazon did a sustainable production for entertainment training for their staff that they paid for. So the the companies are recognizing that this is the way the industry's moving.
And Liz, I might just move through some of these more quickly in the interest of time.
Yep, I think everyone probably knows the Coldplay story and how they used cups. Again, I think get a little frustrated. I think a lot of the times zero waste has been a big focus, but there's a lot of other things other than waste, of energy and carbon. So really
Mhm.
thinking outside the box with this one. These are good examples.
Yeah, but impacts across entertainment broadly.
Yeah, so there we go. Scope 3 emissions. Oh, can you just go back one slide?
Yep.
That's what I
Sorry.
mentioned. So Scope 3 emissions in film TV. So that's purchasing of goods and service, fuel, business travel. So these are all the types of things you'd be having. So let's say you wanted to start an environmental consulting firm for production companies. These are the types of things you'd be helping them with. So just for framing. Thank you. So, oh yeah. So this is actually a pathway. I was thinking about this when you were writing it in, that you could have this as a path in your company. So maybe say you could do all of these things individually at different paces, but waste obviously is the easiest one to implement. It's sort of the lowest hanging fruit. And then, when we're educating and adopting. Um, so my main goal here is about systems thinking, right? I want you to all be critical thinkers. I want you to look at the existing systems. Maybe it's an industry you've worked, maybe it's an industry you haven't worked in. Where are the problems? Where are the pain points? And then how can you shift it, or how can we tell the story that'll make other people want to shift it? So that's the critical thinking hat that I want you to put on today. Next slide, please.
Sorry, there's a little bit of a delay.
No worries. I want to also make sure we do leave some time for questions, but we want to touch on what inspires you. So, I get inspired by sustainable agriculture and making sure people have food systems, and that also that, everybody has access to green space no matter where you live. That's what got me into this. So, and Melanie shared about her whole journey and her family's battle with asthma and how that brought her here. So, I want you to just take a moment, think about what is one thing that is inspiring to you, and then how does that plug in? So, and it doesn't have to be tied to sustainability. Maybe you're inspired about the Met Gala or Fashion Week or something. There is a tie-in to everything. So, um, I have a friend who's really into fashion, and so we have a lot of conversations about fast fashion and what that means to her and why it's important. Um, so think about that, and that's how you're going to connect it to your career, and then it's something you're always going to care about. Anything you wanted to add there, Melanie?
No, I think that's good. I think just moving into we've sort of made our argument that we should care, right? That it's the right
Yes.
thing to do. The climate is changing. And we're contributing to it in the entertainment industry. And that means that it is on us to reduce our impact. The way that we're doing things is not working anymore, and we have an obligation to do better. It's also a good business decision to do better. It's also good for your future career to learn the ways in which you can improve the environment around you and take sustainable actions. So definitely want to make sure that we're leaving you with the idea that sustainability is creating better work environments. It is helping folks be more employable. It is producing less waste. It's having positive environmental impacts and contributing to happier, healthier workplaces and homes. So I did want to make sure that we left enough time for questions. Liz, is there anything you want me to go back to before I talk about internships, training, and resources quickly, and then we can open it up?
No, I think that's good. Dive right in.
Yeah, there's so much you can do. And we are here to help you in whatever way that we can. Our training and workforce development department focuses on green schools, which we have in K through 12. We have our Green Building Corps, an associated academy that is a training program to sort of on-ramp folks into sustainability jobs. We have a whole host of professional development training, which we'll talk about. And we have just an amazing amount of volunteer and mentorship and sort of community-based activities that folks can participate in and sort of dip a toe into sustainability and see if it's for you, if the community is for you. And we have a lot going on in Los Angeles as well. So really interested if you are inspired to participate in sustainability in Los Angeles, please make sure that you contact us. We've got something for you for sure. We also have a sustainability production entertainment certificate. We partnered with a couple of experts to build sort of an industry-wide standard in sustainable production. And right now there is a course there's a QR code there, but there's a course that's online and a course that is live that we run that offers a professional certificate in this subject matter. And I'll go into the curriculum themes here. Really focuses, drills down, and gives folks a very solid competency and foundation in climate systems and planning, energy and environmental management, circularity, and storytelling about climate. Highly recommend checking out the spec curriculum. We also have our Green Building Corps, which is a hands-on internship program where we offer work-based learning opportunities. There are mentorship connections. We do a lot of networking and career fairs and just really trying to get folks together so that they can get and maintain high-quality employment. And we run several cohorts a year. So if you're interested in this, and I'm just going to kind of going through the slides to show you some of our different assets here. We have a career center. We have a jobs portal where companies that believe in our mission and are sort of walking the walk post their jobs. It's also a good place to look. And all of our training, how to become a member, join a committee, participate with us in any way. You can scan that QR code and find a way to get involved. We do, as I mentioned, a whole host of things. In advocacy, we have our environmental justice program, we have volunteering, but we also highly recommend just joining as an individual and be part of our USGBC California network. It's free to join as a student. So please stay connected. And I hope we have enough time to answer some questions. I know I blew through that last part pretty fast, but if you're interested in staying connected, there are numerous ways listed here that you can get in touch with us. And Sarah, I might kick it back over to you.
Yes, thank you both for such a great presentation. I loved learning all about the different roles that really exist that I didn't really know before about how sustainability plays a role in all these different sectors and industries and things like that. I do want to encourage folks, we do have these last 8 minutes about for Q&A. So if you have any questions, make sure to add them in the Q&A box. I know someone had asked anonymously, will a recording be available of today's session? And yes, it will be. It'll be on BRIC's YouTube channel later this week. So you can definitely look out for that. So you don't have to furiously write down any notes if you might have missed something that Melanie or Liz had said. I do have a question for myself, from myself. I'm wondering, Melanie or Liz, if you could talk a little bit more about, like give other examples of sustainable practices that maybe some creative workers are utilizing in the field. Would love to understand some more real world examples if you are able to share.
Sure. Liz, if you have some off the top of your head, I have a list that I can look for as well.
Well, I know just in so we have our office is in a co-working space in the Arts District. It's called the Lacretz Innovation Campus. And inside that building are multiple companies and nonprofits working together. And one of those companies is I believe they're called Upcycle LA, and they're a clothing company that takes fabric scraps and restructures them into new clothing and then sells it. So there are a ton of companies like that. There's another one that we work with that specifically works just on set materials. So deconstructing sets, taking the materials that can be saved, storing them in a warehouse, and then either renting them back out or selling them again. So we've seen that both in set design, but also in construction. So there's construction companies that do that. Will go to old schools and deconstruct a whole building, save the desks, the windows, the steel framing, everything, separate it all, store it in a warehouse, and then resell it. So these are the types of systems that we're trying to create to prevent basically stop stuff from going to the landfill and allowing it to repurpose. And there's countries all over the world who do this really well. Cuba is a great example of a country that is like doing a really good job of recycling materials that they already have. So we are not so good at it here in the States, and we are going to get better.
And I think too, it's also, I mean, I'm thinking about some of the examples we have in our spec curriculum, like craft services, thinking about what are you ordering? What are you intaking? How is it being packaged? How many consumables are you seeing on set? And even in sort of like the sort of tech aspect of it, what type of equipment are you using? Whether it's computers or lighting or other type of rigging and equipment, is there a more sustainable choice? Is there something that costs less to maintain and run if it's electric and not gas generated? And is it better for you to and the environment? There's a lot of equipment used, particularly in sports and music venues, that generate a lot of localized air pollution. And we actually just held a conference for 500 middle school students in San Bernardino called the Future Green Leader Summit. And a partner in this event, New Use Energy, came out and provided were they solar generators? Liz, is that the specific?
Yeah, it's the concerts run 100% clean energy concerts. I just dropped it in the chat. It's called the Battery Tour. It's really cool.
It was very cool. It was very cool. And it helped cut down, like it can be, and it was still fun. And the kids loved it, and it had an impact. And it didn't create a whole bunch of pollution that they were huffing just to be at the event or leave behind in San Bernardino, which is already one of the hardest hit air quality zones in the United States. So there's a lot of different things that can be done, but a lot of it comes down to the choices and being intentional and thinking about there's another option. It doesn't have to be, I'm purchasing this because this is what we purchased, or we have this particular contract and we have to purchase this. Those things can be negotiated. And a lot of that is in procurement and making those types of decisions. So coordinating, being intentional, understanding that there's a different option to what you're purchasing becomes very important. And going back to some of the data and ESG that Liz was talking about, really understanding how to make an argument for a more sustainable choice that may seem sometimes, not always, like it costs more upfront, but then ends up costing half as much to run, or the life cycle of the thing is much longer. It's a more sustainable choice overall, or you're creating a safer work environment because you're not emitting pollution, et cetera. So really understanding and being intentional about purchasing has huge impacts in entertainment, despite whatever the sort of medium of entertainment is. But lots of examples. We could keep going. But even deciding what types of cars you're going to use, where's your location? Is there a way to make that location, closer? Maybe not use fuel run vehicles to go back and forth, et cetera. So there's a lot of different choices that can be made.
I love that. Those are all great examples. And I think it really harkens back to that main theme I think that we were talking about, is that anything can be green. You just got to find, what inspires you and keep that as kind of your North Star wherever your career may pivot.
Yep.
And to move forward.
I also, just a quick plug, and I'm sure this is on many fronts, particularly within creative endeavors, but one of the worst things you can do for the environment is use AI. So really being intentional about understanding it is going to become a part of our world, no matter how hard I would like to personally fight against it. But how do we use it intentionally, and how do we use it in ways that reduces the impact on the environment? It is alarming what the impact is on jobs with AI and on the environment with AI data centers and the turnover of technology that's happening there. So that is a choice you can make, to just not use ChatGPT every once in a while.
Very important, very topical. Love that advice, Melanie. I know we're right at the end of our session, so I do want to thank you, Melanie and Liz, for joining us today and for presenting on how sustainability affects entertainment, but beyond entertainment too. How anyone can, do their part to be intentional and to make an impact in any way. Thank you all for joining us today. If you have any other questions for Melanie or Liz as they come up, please feel free to reach out to us and we'll be sure to funnel your questions over. If you're watching this as a recording, add them as a comment on our video and we'll make sure to respond. So Melanie, Liz, thank you so much again for joining us.
Oh, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having us.
Of course.
Anytime.
All right. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, all.